And good morning. Welcome to the beginning of Sound Roll number one. This is on the 5th of June. This is Pete Seeger interview. Roll one.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got
Been quoted, as I understand it, as saying that you are a singer.
Take one.
A singer of folk songs as opposed to a folk singer. And I've mentioned that to a number of people who've asked what Doreen and I have been doing, and it usually gets a quizzical look and some confusion. And so I wondered if you could possibly start us off by explaining what that distinction means to you.
You asked me what's the difference between a folk singer and a singer of folk songs. Well, it's an important difference. Newspapers and the popular music business gave a brand new definition to the word folk singer along come the 1960s. Up till that time, had been a person who makes music for the fun of it, in the kitchen, on the back porch. Well, there were occasional professional folk singers, I guess. A blues singer would go from honky-tonk to honky-tonk, and a fiddler might be so good that he'd quit his job in the factory or as a farmer and just fiddle for dances, but that's usually a weekend job. Most fiddlers kept their day jobs. And it's true, some gospel singers get so good that they go from church to church and quit their day jobs, but by and large, gospel singers, who are folk singers too, at their best often were non-professionals. That was the ancient definition of folk music 150 or more years ago. The music of the peasant class, ancient and anonymous. And it was picked up in this country for lumberjacks and cowboys singing their ballads and slaves in the fields singing work songs. Now, I think we should face it. There's really as many kinds of folk songs as there are folks. And my big quarrel with the usual definition, a folk singer, well, that's somebody who stands on a stage with a guitar and sings, but these people, they're gospel singers, that's not folk music. Oh, these people, blues singers, that's not folk music. Oh, they're Chinese musicians, that's not folk music. You know what I mean. Folk music is somebody standing on a stage with a guitar and singing the songs they made up in English, of course. I would like to broaden that definition. There's at least 4,000 languages in the world, so linguists tell us, and probably two or three times that many different kinds of folk music. In every country you have religious folk music and irreligious folk music. And in a big nation like the United States, you have hundreds of different kinds, all cheek to jowl.
And how does that then make Pete Seeger a singer of folk songs as opposed to a folk singer? I want to grasp that distinction.
Well, consider, I do make a certain amount of music as a folk singer. I sing for my grandchildren, and I sing here in this little building. We're on the edge of the waterfront. Tonight we're having a monthly potluck supper, and I'll be one of the singers singing around. So at times I'm a folk singer. But when I get on the stage, I'm a very professional person. I know how to project to the back rows. I've had 50 years of experience in putting a program together, singing various kinds of songs, not from any one tradition. I'll sing some African American songs and some Irish American songs. When people ask me, what were you raised to, I have to laugh. My parents were classical musicians. My mother taught violin at Juilliard. My father lectured on music history, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, Schoenberg, Stravinsky. On the other hand, my father was the one that got me interested in old-time country music 60 years ago. He was researching some of the early collections of folk music and trying to figure what was going to happen to it in this modern age. He decided one of the things that was done wrong in Europe, they wrote down these songs on paper, said, now don't change it. That is our sacred old national music. Shucks. No wonder the kids said, we're not interested in it. American music's more fun. You can change it.
On that type of continuum you mentioned, I'll use the word continuum, you talked about folk singer and singer of folk songs. I'm wondering where you might put Woody Guthrie. He's often thought of by people as a folk singer, but I know, and we read that he wrote many of his songs while living in Los Angeles and New York and working in a professional performance milieu. So if you had a sort of imaginary continuum with folk singer and singer of folk songs and even popular artists, where would Woody go?
Face it, some professional scholars would say Woody ceased to be a folk singer when he started living in New York City. In Los Angeles, he was still mixing with other Okies and singing his Okie songs to other Okies. But in New York, he joined up with the communist movement like I did, and Woody was making up a wide variety of songs, although he was rather particular in his own way. I once made up a song with a kind of Caribbean melody. He said, "Pete, stay away from that stuff. Those people know how to do that music. Let's stick to what we know." And that is the old folk singer's way of attitude.
I was talking about this project with my 20-year-old nephew just a week ago, and he knew the name Pete Seeger, and he knew the name Woody Guthrie, and he knew they were folk singers, and I was a little disturbed that he didn't know more than that. So I was thinking that maybe I would ask you to help out folks like him and that generation and future generations. He was to come to me and say, "Mr. Seeger, who was Woody Guthrie and why was he important?" What would you tell him?
Woody was a restless fellow who was very good at putting words together. Just wait till this train goes by with its whistle. Oh, try. Woody Guthrie was a restless fellow who was wonderful at putting words together. He was always cracking jokes, making puns. Whenever I think of him, he has a flicker of a smile about his lips. And even as a teenager, he was doing this, making up rhymes. Never thought he'd make a living at it. He did it for the fun of it. His father made up rhymes. His father had been a deputy sheriff. He'd been a small-town real estate speculator in an oil boom town. Woody went out to California because it didn't seem like there was much future in Oklahoma back in the days of the Dust Bowl, and got a job singing on a little radio station for $1 a day. Well, it brought enough food to eat. And there he came to the attention of Will Geer, the actor. And Will got him Woody singing in little left-wing fundraising parties around Los Angeles. They went up and sang for the agricultural workers in the San Joaquin Valley. Now, I got a letter. I was out east in New York. I got a letter from Will. He says, "I've met a wonderful ballad singer. I'm trying to persuade him to visit New York. You got to meet him. His name is Woody." Well, Woody wrote like 1,000 songs in a 15-year period before he went into a hospital with an incurable genetic disease. And some of these will go down in history, as you know. "This Land Is Your Land," "Sinking of the Reuben James," children's songs like "Put Your Finger in the Air, put your finger on your nose, on your nose." And more than that, as people read his books, they say, now this is a guy that America should be proud of. He tried to do his best, whatever he could. And he's now world famous in many ways. But there are a lot of people like him, literally thousands, who knows, tens of thousands. People who make up rhymes. They don't ever expect to get rich. They don't expect anybody to make a hit record out of their rhymes. They do it all the time. It's an old tradition. I'll say it's more of a tradition among some people than others. I'd say among Irish people there's a great tradition of making up story songs and ballads. Among black people, religious and sinful, tremendous traditions of making up songs. You take an old song and change it. But other people too. I was in Pittsburgh. A man of Slovakian background heard me and said, "Oh, when I was young, we used to make up songs." I says, "Teach me one." He says, "Oh, you wouldn't understand it. It's all Slovakian." But I learned it and made an English translation. Ah, my God, what is this land of America? So many people traveling there. I will go too, for I am still young. God, the Lord, will grant me good luck there.
When you think about
Yeah.
Roll two, take two. Roll two, take two.
Was Woody an individual of any particularly strong political ideology, or was he more of what I'll loosely call a humanist, a humanitarian?
Any one of these words would be an oversimplification. When he went into the hospital, he was told he'd never be able to sing again, or he'd be in the hospital until he died. He looked at us intently, said, "Only God can help me." At the same time, he applied for membership in the Communist Party at one time. Got turned down. He hated meetings, hated long words. The nurse came up to him and said, "What religion are you?" He said, "All." "Mr. Guthrie, don't kid around. I have to fill out this application. Your wife's Jewish. Are you Jewish? Are you Protestant, Catholic?" Woody said, "All or none." He really believed it. He kept talking about the one great union of the human race, of the human soul, of the universe. In his own way, he worked out a philosophy that people ought to help each other instead of steal from each other. One of his most famous songs, "The gambling man is rich and the working man is poor, and I ain't got no home in this world anymore."
What's your most vivid memory of Woody the Man? He's become a legend to so many people, but legends get a little cardboard.
With his guitar slung on his back, hat pushed back on his forehead, a mop of curly hair, often needing a shave, and, as I say, a flicker of a grin as he thought of some new joke. Every day he was thinking of a new joke. He had a little pocket notebook to write down rhymes and jokes.
You and Doreen talked a little bit on the telephone about the almanac singers, and I'm going to try and paraphrase what you said. If I don't do it correctly, let me know. But I understand that you told her that you thought they were important, but that unfortunately their story was perhaps too little known today. So I thought...
Too what?
Too little known. Too little known today. So I thought I'd ask a two-part question. Why were the almanacs important? And was their importance confined to their time, or is it something that can continue through these 50 years and teach us things today?
I just started to make a living as a musician. I'd found I could sing in the schools and in summer camps. And Woody taught me how to sing in bars. He says, "Pete, put your banjo on your back, go in and order a nickel beer and sip it as slow as you can. Sooner or later somebody will say, 'Kid, can you play that thing?' And say, you don't be too eager. You say, 'Well, maybe. Keep on sipping your beer.' Sooner or later somebody's going to say, 'Kid, I got a quarter for you if you'll pick us a tune.' Now you swing it around, you play it." Well, I came to New York, or back to New York, and was trying to get out a collection of Union songs. Alan Lomax had thrown these songs at Woody and me. We'd put them in a book. Hard-hitting songs for hard-hit people, we called it. But we couldn't find a publisher. And in New York, I find there's another guy trying to put out a collection of Union songs. His name was Lee Hayes. I figured we ought to put our heads together. Look him up. Pretty soon we were singing together. And his roommate, Millard Lampell, he's now a well-known screenwriter. The three of us were singing at little left-wing fundraising parties around New York, what we call the subway circuit. And we didn't have a name. I was reading through Woody's introduction to this book, come across the word almanac. Lee says, "Hold on. Where I come from, farming family has two books in the house, a Bible to help them get into the next world, and an almanac to help them get through this world." We became the Almanac Singers. And we wrote a letter to Woody. He was out west writing songs about the Grand Coulee Dam at the time. Said, "When you come east, we hope you'll join us." He did. We no sooner hitchhiked east than a week later we took off for the west again in a beat-up old car and sang our way out to his old stomping grounds in California. The almanacs only lasted another year, and we had must have been 6 or 8 or 10 people were in the almanacs, come and go. I dropped out in the summer of 42. I went in the Army. Woody went in the Merchant Marine. Mill Lampell went in the Army. And so we had a rather short career, but we did a few things that were important. We showed that the idea of singing informally, without written arrangements, could be done in the city as well as the country. Up till that, said, "Oh, you can't do this kind of music unless you're in the countryside." But there we were doing it in the city and got away with it.
The Almanac sang a lot of what I'll call topical songs.
Oh, yes.
Is that something that you think has influenced people through the 50 years since they disbanded?
Well, I hope we encouraged other people to write topical songs. You know what we mean by topical songs? A song about an event of the day in some way. Of course, almost anything could be considered topical. You fall in love, that's an event of the day. You write a love song. You get converted to a religion. You write a song of exaltation. That's a event of the day. But I was thinking about something you can read in the headlines. We had a nasty song. Oh, Franklin Roosevelt told the people how he felt. We damn near believed what he said. He said, "I hate war," and so does Eleanor, "but we won't be safe till everybody's dead." See, there are a lot of people who just figured war was bad no matter who was involved. There's no such thing as a just war. What are you going to do about Hitler, though? In retrospect, of course, it's easy to say what should have been done, but in 1935, Litvinov, the Soviet representative to the League of Nations, proposed that Hitler and Mussolini and Tojo, they were invading Manchuria, they should be quarantined. Quarantine the aggressor, says Litvinov. But England and France and USA just laughed at him because their basic plot was build up the fascists, let them attack Stalin. That way they'd both finish each other off. Harry Truman said it aloud. He said, "Yep, get Hitler and Stalin fighting, and the one that's losing we should help, so they both end up so weak they won't cause us any trouble." And then, of course, Stalin pulled his own trick, pulled out the rug from them and signed his non-aggression pact. And communists in this country said that it was a phony war, and I think it was a phony war at the outset. But we didn't perceive when it changed, like when the Yugoslav partisans defended their country against the Nazi invaders. And we were singing peace songs in April. We had some good songs. Remember when the AAA killed 1 million hogs a day? Instead of hogs, it's men today. Plow the fourth one under. June 22nd, Hitler invades the Soviet Union. Woody just arrived about 3 days later, knocked on our door. He says, well, I'm here. Woody, how are you? About the first words out of his mouth, he had a grin. He says, well, I guess we won't be singing any more peace songs, will we? I said, you mean I have to support Churchill? Well, Churchill says all aid to the gallant Soviet allies. I said, is this the man who said strangle the Bolshevik infant in its cradle? That was 1920. Yep, says Woody, Churchill's flip-flopped. So we got a flip-flop. This is a story Woody was telling all that summer. Man dies, and his wife gives him a good funeral. A few years later, she dies, finds herself up at the pearly gates. St. Peter, she says, I want to find my husband. Well, ma'am, what's his name? We'll look him up. John Smith. Oh, ma'am, we got lots of John Smiths. Was he Butcher John Smith? No, no. Was he Blacksmith John Smith? No, no. Well, was he something unusual about him? No, he's a very average man, St. Peter. Well, tell us some anecdote about him so we can locate him. Well, he did say if I ever looked at another man, he'd roll over in his grave. Oh, you mean Whirling John Smith? And Woody told that story all the way to the West Coast and back. We did stop singing peace songs, and in fall of 1941, one of Woody's best ballads were made up. Have you heard of a ship called that good Reuben James? Manned by hard fighting men, both of honor and fame. She flew the stars and stripes of the land of the free, but tonight she's in her grave at the bottom of the sea. Tell me what were their names? Tell me what were their names? Did you have a friend on the good Reuben James? And so on. You